So, gut flora. For me, it's a very interesting topic, and it's an important topic. The knowledge on gut flora may change the way we treat the non-communicable disease in the future, and you'll understand after at the end of the presentation. And this is one of the most important essential organ, which is some scientists call it a forgotten organ. So let's start. The father of modern medicine long ago said, all disease begins in the gut. The Hippocrates. He also said, the food is the medicine, food is the solution, or let food be thy medicine. So, which are more relevant here when it comes to gut flora. The Deepak Chopra, one of the well-known figure in America, is a MD holder and is in America. He says it's fair to say that the exploration of the microbiome has turned out to be the most exciting prospect in medicine since the discovery of DNA. So let's start. So I don't know how many of you know this. We have nearly 1 trillion human cells we got from parents. But when it comes to bacteria, not only bacteria, we have bacteria, virus, fungus, and so on. But mainly today, we are going to discuss more about the bacteria, which is nearly 10 trillions. So 10 times more bacteria than the normal human cells. So imagine just 10%. Real human cells are 10% when it comes by number. But if you go by the genetic material, it will be further shocking or surprising to see that there are 23,000 human genes in our body, but more than 2 million bacterial genes are there. That means what? Gene means it producing proteins, enzymes. So it involves in the metabolic activity of the human being. So we have more than 2 million bacterial genes. There are about nearly 400 to 1,000 species of bacteria. Nearly 50% of the feces is bacteria. So here you will understand the importance of the bacteria or the gut flora, even though the bacteria is everywhere, skin, mucosa, vagina, most of the places in the surface. But what is more important is the gut flora, which we are going to discuss today. Why gut is important? If you see the surface area of the gut, the surface area which communicate with the environment is, if you see proportionately, if you see, if this much is skin and if this much of surface area is lung, this much is gut, then you'll understand the gut is the organ which communicate with the environment closely than lungs and skin. Why gut is important? Nearly 80 to 85% of the immune system is located in the gut. Secondly, the second largest neuronal network also in the gut. That's why it's called second brain. Next to brain, the largest network is in the gut, not in the spinal cord. And by the way, this was a question sometime back as an essay question for MD, gut flora. So the gut flora it influences profoundly on the development and maturation of the immune system. The gut flora can profoundly affect everything, all from irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, mental health, rheumatoid arthritis, obesity, diabetes, and so on. If you see the diversity of the gut flora, each different places it differs. The diversity differs. The composition varies. For example, if you see in the gut, this is gut flora. So these are the bacteria. So you get more Firmicutes and Bacteroidetes. But skin, mouth, esophagus, stomach, vagina, the composition varies. Similarly, even in the GIT tract, if you see, different places, different bacteria are there. This is the composition of gut microbiota. Basically, it's majority of the bacteria are either Firmicutes or Bacteroidetes. Even with various the life uh, from infant to elderly, again the composition changes, but in the fetus the gut is sterile. So when the baby born, the baby got the bacteria or the gut flora from the mother's vagina. So it's important to know the mode of delivery also predicts some of the disease in the future. It's very important. See, uh, as I said, the fetal gut is sterile. The colonization begins immediately after the birth, which is influenced by the mode of delivery, whether it's a cesarean or vagina, by the infant diet, whether it's a breastfed or formula fed, or the introduction of various medication, most importantly the antibiotic. So if you see the in cesarean section, primary gut flora in cesarean delivery may disturb for up to 6 months after birth. Some study says it's up to 7 years. The gut flora due to the normal vaginal delivery and cesarean is different, and it predicts some of the disease in the future, such as, for example, um, several studies shows that cesarean delivery may increase the risk of some autoimmune disease such as type 1 diabetes, Crohn's disease, and multiple sclerosis, and allergic conditions such as asthma, allergic rhinitis, and atopic dermatitis. So, antibiotic, obviously, when you give antibiotic, whether oral or in IV, it changes the composition of the gut flora, which has bigger impact in the future. And when it comes to non-communicable disease, we'll see some example here. In America itself, 40% of the women today get antibiotic during delivery, and 100% of them get when they have first incision, that means cesarean, which can influence the gut flora. And in US, child receives about 3 courses of antibiotic by the age of 2, 10 courses by the age of 10. So antibiotic, as I said, directly disturb the intestinal microbiota. Antibiotic exposure in children has been associated with increased risk of obesity, diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, asthma, and allergies, and so on. This is published in New England Journal of Medicine. One thing, when we know that the importance of antibiotic, we just sometimes blindly give broad spectrum antibiotic and long-term antibiotic. We should remember it also disturbs the gut flora, which is protecting you from various disease, autoimmune disease, and allergies. So here it shows over the years, we have get rid of many infectious disease, and we have reduced the incidence of many diseases such as rheumatic fever, hepatitis, mumps, measles, and tuberculosis. At the same time, the autoimmune diseases and allergies went up and growing. And Professor Martin Blaise, he was a president of the Infectious Disease Society of America. Over the last 20 years, he's involved in studying the relationship between human microbiome and health. He wrote a book, and he says the overuse of antibiotic is fueling our modern plague. And let me show, if possible, I don't know, I'll try to show a 2-minute video clip by Professor Martin Blaise on this, on gut flora and antibiotics.
We also have about 100 trillion or more microbes. So the number of microbial cells outnumbers the number of human cells in our body. In fact, we're probably somewhere between 70 and 90% bacteria, which is food for thought. If we look at the genes in the body, the human genome has about 23,000 genes, but the current estimate of how many unique bacterial genes we have in our body is about 2 million. So 99% of all the genes in our body are bacterial. But we've been doing things in recent years that changed the microbiome. Antibiotics, cesarean sections, antiseptics. And my hypothesis is that we have permanently changed the microbiome. And this is leading to some of the modern diseases. Diseases like obesity, juvenile diabetes, food allergies, asthma, maybe even autism. And we have been doing work in the laboratory that has supported this, and other scientists have been doing work that supported this. And it's becoming more and more of a solid story. So my job is to tell the public about this and to sound an alarm so that we can stop the degradation of our microbiome and start to take steps to fix it, to replace the missing organisms, to stop the overuse of antibiotics, and to ultimately restore the health of our microbiomes.
Okay, and so as a future physicians, I think you all should understand the importance of using the right amount of antibiotic in right duration. And another bigger risk is that if you see in America, 73% of the antibiotic goes to the animals. So when we eat, again we are getting the antibiotic. It disturbs our gut flora. So another example, like how gut flora influences the inflammatory bowel disease. It definitely does influence. So the inflammatory bowel disease is thought to results from inappropriate response to the mucosal immune system to gut microflora. Gut microflora should be the environmental factor most responsible for inflammatory bowel disease. Diet rich in animal protein and animal fat causes decrease in beneficial bacteria in the intestine. Diet rich in plant-based diet promotes beneficial gut flora. We'll see research here. Nearly, I think, 22 patients were the patients were 22. Here's the results when they give semi-vegetarian diet compared to the control. After 1 year, when they give this diet to, I think it's Crohn's disease, yes. At the end of the year, 100% remission was noticed in the semi-vegetarian group and 67% in the control group. And at the end of 2 years, 92% remission in Crohn's disease in the semi-vegetarian group, 25% in the control group. That is control mean not omnivorous diet. So this is omnivorous diet, other one is a vegetarian diet. So you can see this compared to any other studies so far on Crohn's disease, the editor or the author claims that this is the best results when it comes to relapse prevention. So these are various studies comparing different regime. So here 100 in 1 year, 67% in 2 years. You can compare with other studies. This is the best results. So diet probably or maybe as per the present research evidence, maybe the best choice or, for the Crohn's disease or inflammatory bowel disease. There were studies on fecal microbiota transplantation. You transplant the fecal microbiota of normal healthy adult to inflammatory bowel disease. Again, the results are promising. So for the largest published study in Crohn's disease, shows that FMT, the fecal microbiota transplantation, is safe and efficient rescue therapy for refractory Crohn's disease. Similarly, ulcerative colitis also, it is safe and induced remission. Next, I will take, maybe there are a few examples. Next is colorectal cancer and colonic bacteria. Based on the research, it says lower the stool pH, lower the colonic cancer. They say just like when you lower the cholesterol, lower the chance of myocardial infarction. Similarly, Lower the pH, the research suggests the lower the stool pH, lower the chance of colonic cancer. Higher the stool pH, higher the chance of colonic cancer. So what actually increases the pH? The fiber of plant-based diet has complex carbohydrate which should be converted to short-chain fatty acids. They are butyrate, acetate, and propionic acid by the good bacteria and form this short-chain fatty acid. That reduces the pH. So short-chain fatty acid reduces the stool pH, through which reduces the risk of colon cancer. Opposite to that, high protein and fat content diet promote ammonia by putrefaction by the so-called bad bacteria, and increases the risk of colonic cancer by increasing the pH of stool. These are the evidence. It was published long ago in 1981 in Lancet. So it says considerable evidence suggests that the carcinogens or co-carcinogens responsible for the development of colorectal cancer are either bacterially degraded bile acids or cholesterol. It is proposed that a high colonic pH promotes co-carcinogen formation from these substances, and that acidification of the colon either by dietary fiber or milk may prevent this process. These are the evidence again. This shows that high risk people have higher pH value and low risk people have low pH value in of their stool. When it compared to native African, the African American have high risk of colonic cancer. When they investigate the stool of these two groups, the native African has higher the short chain fatty acid, acetic acid, propionic acid, and butyric acid, and lesser chance of colonic cancer. Another example again, who has lower pH value, even compared to vegetarian and other people, the vegan has the lowest pH value in the stool. That's again due to the short chain fatty acid. Remember, the short chain fatty acid will come again and again here. Those protect us from various diseases. One is colorectal carcinoma. The butyric acid, as I said, is another short chain fatty acid. An in vitro study shows it inhibits the growth of the malignant growth. Obesity and gut flora. Actually, I didn't include diabetes and gut flora. Again, please study that also. There's a link between the gut flora and diabetes, which I didn't include. You can study later. So obesity and gut flora. This is another interesting study. When you get the gut flora from obese people and transplant it to the gut of the mice recipient, the gut will increase the adiposity and become obese. But same mice, if you take from a lean person, the gut flora, and if you can transplant, there won't be any change in the adiposity. So gut flora can determine your weight or BMI. Again, these are the evidence to show that short chain fatty acid, acetate, propionate, and butyrate are metabolite formed by the gut microbiota from a complex dietary carbohydrate fiber diet basically. The short chain fatty acids so produced are metabolized to provide 60 to 70% of the energy need of the colonic cells. Butyrate and acetate were reported to protect against diet-induced obesity without causing hyperphagia, but propionate, another short chain fatty acid, was shown to cause with hyperphagia. So fecal transplantation is one of the options for obesity. Another study shows that when you treat a patient with vancomycin, particularly infective endocarditis here, for a long term, it destroys some of the beneficial bacteria, which reduces your BMI. So when you give vancomycin, they notice that there is increase, the more people get obese. So when you disturb the gut flora, you may get obese. This is again another interesting publication. I think it was published maybe in New England Journal of Medicine also. So how does the gut flora influences the outcome? Atherosclerosis, so myocardial infarction. Intestinal microbiota metabolism of L-carnitine, which is in the meat, particular red meat. What does it do? So when you take egg or red meat, it has carnitine and choline, or phosphatidylcholine, which will be converted to ultimately in the gut by what they call TMA. TMA. Then, so for this, you need bacteria, gut flora. This TMA will be converted to TMAO by the liver. This is highly atherogenic. Highly atherogenic. So this to form TMAO, you need gut flora. So what happens is, see, when you give carnitine, the carnitine goes up, but when it's converted to TMAO increases and carnitine will come down in the plasma. So if you suppress the gut flora here by antibiotic, what will happen? There won't be any production of TMAO. Another interesting thing is when you compare to omnivores and vegan, when you give carnitine, in omnivores, the TMA goes up because they have the bacteria to produce this TMA, then in the liver TMAO. But in vegan, they don't have enough the bad bacteria to convert the carnitine to TMA. So you don't get this increase, the TMAO will not increase. So this was published recently, and it changes the way we think about the atherosclerosis. Next, another example is rheumatoid arthritis. There are plenty of evidence shows now, extensive evidence based on the results of various microbial, immunological, and molecular studies from different parts of the world shows that there's a strong link exists between the Proteus mirabilis microbes and the rheumatoid arthritis. So rheumatoid arthritis, they say there's a molecular mimicry. Proteus urease and the collagen looks alike. So there's a molecular mimicry. The antibody which formed against the Proteus urease, urinary tract infection, also attack the cartilage. So this is one, there are evidence to show this hypothesis. So what happens is when they treat, so basically when I say vegetarian and plant-based diet, what happens when you give plant-based diet, you the good bacteria will grow, they take fiber and form short-chain fatty acid. That is why, so one of the most important influential factor to change your gut flora is these prebiotic and probiotic. It's mainly the plant-based diet. So when you give plant-based diet, another study shows when you give a plant-based diet, what will happen over, I think, several months. Yeah, it's here 13 months. Over 13 months, what happens in the symptoms and signs, what will happen in the, when it comes to the test results, we'll see. So almost all the pain compared to the control, pain comes down, morning stiffness is better, and all these things are better. Joint tenderness is better. Weight, yeah. Most of the things, signs and symptoms improves with the plant-based diet. Even the investigation over 13 months, when you see the ESR comes down with compared to control, hemoglobin is, I think, almost similar. C-reactive protein is much better. Platelet is the results. So there's big improvement with the plant-based diet, basically because of the protein, by changing the, I mean, when you take plant-based diet, you change the gut flora. So where do you get the, so when you say Proteus mirabilis, that particular organism is comes from the gut flora. When you change the gut flora, you less chance of getting urinary tract infection. So less chance of Proteus mirabilis and the and rheumatoid arthritis got better. Even the antibody, when they check compared to control and omnivores, the vegetarian has low antibodies to Proteus mirabilis. Okay, this is again a exciting area when it comes to gut flora. How does the, now there are plenty of evidence coming and the interest is shown by the psychiatrist and neurologist how the gut flora influence your brain, your thought, your emotion, and so on. Similarly, how your emotion and stress influence the gut flora both way. So your emotion and stress or the feeling can influence the gut flora. Similarly, your gut flora influence the myelination of your brain, influence some psychiatric condition like depression, psychosis, and schizophrenia. This is one of the fascinating area when it comes to gut flora. So let me read the from the research paper. The strongest evidence yet that gut bacteria can have a direct physical effect on the brain and suggest physical effect and suggest that it may one day be possible to treat debilitating, demyelinating disease such as multiple sclerosis and even psychiatric disorder by altering the composition of the gut's microbial microbia. So, as I said earlier, why there's a big network, neuronal network in the gut, which is more than the spinal cord next to the brain. So that's why it's called second brain. Bacteria in your gut may also exerting subtle influence on your thoughts, moods, and behavior. There are enough evidence for that. There is, as I said, there are two-way line of communication between the gut bacteria and the brain. Alteration in its composition have been implicated in a wide range of neurological and psychiatric conditions such as autism, chronic pain, depression, Parkinson's disease, and so on. I think some of you may not believe, but I firmly believe this. This is how some of the Ayurvedic and Siddha people, treating the mental illness by giving purgatives. So there is some meaning in it. I think now new evidence are coming. So you treat your gut to treat your brain. So this is again from this particular study, which is probably one milestone. I think this is one of the important study. It says, in summary, we believe we demonstrate for the first time that the microbiome is necessary for appropriate and dynamic regulation of myelin-related genes, with clear implication for cortical myelination. So the microbiota is therefore a potential therapeutic target for psychiatric disorders involving dynamic myelination in the prefrontal cortex. Not only now, this is, we said the gut flora, changing your gut flora changes your emotion and some of the illnesses. Opposite also true. When you change the emotion, it changes the gut flora. This research is done on the investigating the role of perceived stress on bacterial flora activity and salivary cortisol secretion. So this is the baseline number of particular bacteria in probably a student, I believe, and they checked day before the exam day, first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, it comes down. So the stress influences the composition or number of the gut flora. And how does it work? How does the gut flora communicate with the brain? How does the brain communicate with the gut flora? This is what the scientist says. There are at least three ways. One is through vagus nerve. The gut flora can stimulate the vagus nerve and influence the brain. So that is why mice treated with a bacteria called Lactobacillus rhamnosus exhibit a decrement of depressive symptom when you give rhamnosus, but when you give this particular bacteria after vagotomy, the response is not there. This is after vagotomy. This is when there is vagus nerve. So that means this communication happens to the vagus nerve. This is one way of communication. So after vagotomy, the good effect is not there. Secondly, um, some of the gut flora stimulate the gut endocrine system by producing some neuropeptide and neurotransmitters. So the treating mice with this particular Bacteroides fragilis able to convert some abnormalities when it comes to this is behavior. I think this is an autism or in behavior, what are they? So when you give this particular bacteria which produces the neuropeptide, there's improvement in the behavior. I think this is done in autism people. So it influence, but this is through by producing neuroactive molecules by this gut bacteria. And third way is by through 80% of the 80% of the immune cells are in the gut. So back again, this particular bacteria. So this is when it comes to multiple sclerosis. This is about autism. When you give people with autism back this particular bacteria, they get better. Some of the behavior get better. This is about multiple sclerosis. So what happens is when you give this particular bacteria, there's improvement. This is what improvement, clinical improvement is there. But when you give this particular bacteria exerts its action through regulatory T cells. So through regulatory T cells, so this particular bacteria protects the mouse from multiple sclerosis. Mice treated with this bacteria are more resistant to multiple sclerosis. Here it is. This depends on the activity of the regulatory T cells that expresses mark CD25 marker. So when you block this with anti CD25, when you block CD25, that here it is. That beneficial clinical outcome will not be there. That means what? So this action is through the regulatory T cells. These are the three ways through which the bacteria can communicate with your brain. There are several studies shows probiotic. 1 month of probiotic was found significantly decreases the symptom of anxiety, depression, and anger. So mood can be influenced by the gut flora. So I think we have come to the end. So basically, human gut flora influence and maybe influence the whether you are a healthy person, or it can induce diseases also. The list is huge: obesity, metabolic syndrome, atherosclerosis, diabetes, and so on. There are several ways you can influence the gut flora. Diet is main thing. Medication like antibiotic can negatively influence. Sex, gene, environment, and the obesity itself can influence the gut flora and your psychological factors. Out of this, many says that diet is seen as the most powerful way to change your gut microbiome. since each bacterial species feeds on specific food. So, what are the ways of treating or changing the gut flora? Either you can do fecal microbiota transplantation, like in inflammatory bowel disease or Clostridium difficile infection, by giving probiotics, by giving prebiotic, and change the best way probably changing your diet, daily diet. This is, I think, I got from Lancet. I think that's the end of my talk. The message is, so please send the feedback. This is my number, either to WhatsApp or directly. And I can send, if you want, I can send the PowerPoint. So the conclusion is, it seems that the root cause of many deadly diseases in the gut, from common cold to ulcerative colitis, metabolic syndrome, and cancer, from depression to schizophrenia and autism, the root problem may be in the gut. So take care of your gut, and gut will take care of us. And do not misuse the antibiotic. So that's it. And the take-home message is, this is my take-home message. So thank you. And if you have any question, if I can, I will try to help you to answer question, or please send your feedback. That's it. Do you have question and answer session? Anyone, if you want to answer, you can ask. So was it useful? Yes, Yalini, Dulanga. Was it useful? Okay, if there are any questions, so we can stop. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wait a minute. Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Please send feedback if you can to this number. I have WhatsApp, Viber, or directly. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay, sir.